Hey everyone, welcome to the channel where we talk about all things movies. Welcome especially if you're new. If you enjoy talking about movies and staying up to speed on what's in theaters and what's worth checking out, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of my reviews when they post. Alright, with that we're going to get into today's review, which is for Where the Crawdads Sing. I saw this actually yesterday. I saw a double feature yesterday evening, so I wasn't able to record until today, middle of the afternoon, so I've had a little bit of time to digest a bit. But yeah, we're going to get right on in. So this will be a spoiler review. This is just, there's a lot that goes on in the movie that I wanted to talk to specifically. So figured I'd make it a spoiler review. So you've been warned. Hopefully you've seen it and you can stick around and participate in the discussion. So let's jump right on in. So we'll start with just a synopsis. If I'm presuming you probably saw it, but in case you haven't, a woman who raised herself in the marshes of the Deep South becomes a suspect in the murder of a man she was once involved with. So I actually knew absolutely nothing about this film going into it. It's apparently based on a really popular book, and which, yeah, I wasn't aware of, hadn't heard of it, just saw that it was a new movie this weekend and went in, which was actually a really cool experience because I had no idea even like what type of movie we were gonna get. I assumed it wasn't horror, but I wouldn't have been surprised if it was. So as the movie opens up and it starts off, we find out about the murder and it gets into that sort of aspect of it. I was really excited because I like these sort of kind of, it's not quite true crime, but like shows like Mayor of Easttown's Sharp Objects, True Detective, things like that, where they're kind of a more gritty take on crime and that sort of thing, and it's following like a detective story. I thought that's maybe what we were gonna get because that's how it started off, and it didn't quite go that route. Like we don't focus on the detectives or the mystery aspect a whole lot, but I was getting kind of some of those vibes in the beginning, and then as the story starts to progress, we actually jump back into her story, and it's not really about the crime. Like the crime is still there, and that's something I really liked about the film, is just having that mystery element and trying to figure out who. Well, first off, you don't even know who was killed because like you're trying to figure out, okay, is this person actually in her life or is he just some random person? And we find out, halfway through it's Chase, and we find out who Chase is, and we get to see their relationship as it unfolds and develops. So that part was interesting, just trying to figure out, okay, who's the victim, who had motives to kill him, did she have motives to kill him, is she truly innocent, is she guilty, that sort of a thing. So I liked kind of diving into the movie and just trying to figure out what it was supposed to be. I liked the courtroom aspect of it. I'm a big fan of, lawyer type shows or movies. One of my favorite shows is Suits. So getting a bit of that in the courtroom without necessarily some of the background, like we didn't have all the pieces like some of the people in the courtroom might have. Although I think the only person with all the pieces was Kaya, and I don't think she told her lawyer whether or not she did it. But the opposing side, he was just a very dislikable character for the opposing lawyer. So I think they cast him well, and the actor played his part well, and definitely got you on to Kaya's side because he was just, I don't know, you just wanted to dislike him for kind of his arrogance and the way he was coming across. But yeah, other things I liked about the film, I did enjoy very much the like cinematography and getting to see all the locations. Like it's such a beautiful area where they shot this down. I assume they shot it, relatively close to where it said it took place in North Carolina. That's not a part of the country that I've actually been to, but it made me want to go visit there. Like it was very beautiful for the marshland. And I thought it was interesting when like the film opens up and she's explaining the difference between a marsh and a swamp. And yes, the swamp has kind of a more like muddy, murky sort of connotation, but a marsh is actually very beautiful, and like they kind of show that in the film. So I liked kind of, yeah, getting the opportunity to learn and see something that I haven't really experienced myself. And then so yeah, there's like several layers to this film, and I enjoyed all of them like kind of individually, and then packaging them all up, it became an even stronger film for that. So as we're diving into her backstory, we're realizing very much that this is a very tragic story. Like she went through so much growing up. Like I can't even imagine what it would take to survive that. But having each one of her siblings, like having her mom leave and then each one of her siblings and then just having to live with her dad. And then when her dad goes, then it's just her. So it's, yeah, it was impressive to see her kind of take the initiative to survive, and made me have a lot of respect for her character. But kind of what also comes with that, and it's, yeah, I think it's true to what is actually present in the real world, but it's always so difficult to watch in a film, and that's like how mean people can be. And we see that especially when she goes to school for the only day that she ever went to school, and the kids just laugh at her, and it's not necessarily like to blame the kids, but it's part of at least what I was thinking going through that part of the movie is like, why are people this way? Like, what drives kids to be so mean? Like, I don't think sometimes some kids are just mean and they mean to me, and like they're intentionally mean. But a lot of times people, but I think especially kids, are just mean. Like, we come up with nicknames for people that get at like their worst, like the parts of them that they like the least, and that just eats away at people. And why can't we just have a more supportive culture in general? Like, where does that meanness come from? Like, does it just get passed down, and is it cyclical, and is that, something we can break? But the movie doesn't really ask those questions, but those are some things that were on my mind. And it's like when you see that in a film, or at least when I see that in a film, it reiterates that point and poses that question again. But yeah, and like that continued throughout her whole life. Like, people just call her Marsh Girl, and like without a second thought that like she's an actual person who probably doesn't particularly like the name Marsh Girl. Like, but I mean, to her credit, she doesn't really let it get to her, but it still doesn't make people's treatment of her any less mean. And then the last part of the film, or the last kind of side or layer of the film, is the love story aspect. So all of these are kind of interwoven, and I think they did a really good job of balancing each one to get the full picture. But I thought that, yeah, the love story was done pretty well. I liked having the contrast of Tate and Chase, and kind of just showing their differences and what her relationship looked like with each of them. So I liked how it was great to see, I think, Tate as a kid just, protect her, and when her dad was beating on her, to actually go and defend her, just because like that's the right thing to do. You see a man beating up on a girl, you want to stop that. So like from the start, we see that Tate is a good person, and it was fun to see kind of their relationship grow, and yeah, see her like learn, like admit that she can't read, and then him not like making fun of her for that, but teaching her. And I think that was one of my favorite parts about her character, is how smart she is. So even though she's not educated to begin, like she never went to school, she learns to read, and then she reads and learns so much. And that comes across, when she meets her publishers, or even like when she's talking with Tate or Chase. Like, she just knows all these facts and things, especially like her focus and her interests lie in like kind of nature and the marshland there. But she's learned so much about like birds and nature and stuff like that. So it was, yeah, like just because someone's uneducated doesn't mean they're stupid. And I think, yeah, there again, that was a part of her character that I really admired, is how intelligent she was. So which kind of one point that I really liked is how they lay down like little clues and present things to make you at least suspect her as the culprit, or as the murderer. And like they show her kind of covering her tracks as she's walking through the forest. I think it's with Tate, it might be Chase, but like they're walking through the forest and she's covering their tracks behind them. And she's also shown to be very, very intelligent. So they drop these little clues where, yeah, as the lawyer presents in the courtroom, it's like, are you really going to buy that she had this perfectly worked out? Nobody saw her get on the train or on the buses to get back to town. And like what he paints isn't an impossible picture, but it's very improbable. But they lay enough where, as the audience, like I bought in. I thought that she was innocent. I honestly thought that it was Tate who had killed Chase. But they lay enough clues where like, oh yeah, like I should have seen that, or at least it's very believable if I wasn't already thinking about those clues that they were dropping. So I think that's a really good mark of like a mystery that's well crafted, when you have the pieces to put it together before they just tell you what the answer is. And kind of on that note, I really like how they revealed it in the end. I kind of wanted, like, part of me wishes we would have actually seen a scene of it play out and actually get it visualized instead of her just talking to it in the note that she leaves for Tate. But I liked that, yeah, she didn't tell him right away. He only found out after she died, but she did do it. And, like, yeah, it's the sort of thing, here again, it's like common, it's like for my approach to movies, it's the sort of thing where part of me feels like, justice was served. Like, Chase committed one of the worst crimes possible. That's just to rape somebody else is like, yeah, that's one of the worst crimes out there. That being said, I don't know that it merits a death penalty. So, like, even her standing trial, like, they're like, oh, like, you're on trial for murder, and if you lose this, you're gonna get the death penalty. And as the audience member, and part of me is like, that's like kind of unfair, mainly because I think she might be innocent. But I just this is starting to get into politics, which I don't really want to dwell on too much, but I don't know. I'm unconvinced that there's a crime out there that deserves a death penalty. So I think that's a topic for debate. So for me, I'm always very careful of being like, oh, that person deserved to die, because like if it went through the court system, I don't know that I would support a death penalty. That being said, you certainly get that feeling of, justice is served when you know that he was killed and that was as a response to his terrible, terrible crime. But then part of it, like, justice was served, is that she was the one that got to serve it. But yeah, so those are just some of the thoughts going around there. But yeah, it was interesting getting back to kind of the love story aspect. It was interesting seeing kind of the differences between Tate and Chase, and especially as I think Tate was very, very clear that he was genuine and kind-hearted. So it was all the more heartbreaking to see that, he didn't show up after he left. And I was actually kind of surprised that she opened up again after that. I would have imagined she would have just remained closed off, but she opened up to Chase. And yeah, there again, they do that sort of story so well, where you're not really sure if Chase is just like interested in her to make to eventually make fun of her. Is he just like kind of curious, or does he actually care about her potentially? And yeah, but like, so it's not black and white, and they don't like, there's certain times where you're like, I think he is actually genuine and kind-hearted, but there's certainly a lot where he's not, and it seems like he's only interested in her like sexually and that sort of thing. But yeah, I don't know. I was very surprised though when it came up, like when she met his fiance. I assumed, like, I think by that point I figured he wasn't very invested, or I think he was uncommitted to her, he wasn't being genuine. But I did not expect him to be like fully engaged and having been engaged the whole time. But like not knowing those pieces of the puzzle also make you, as they're going through the courtroom scene and his mom is on the stand, part of me is like, oh, I wonder if she did it. If like maybe she found out that Chase was dating Kaya and she got so upset and he like refused to break up with her that maybe his parents killed him and then wanted to frame Kaya. So like those are some considerations. I think those went away fast enough, but those went away as soon as you saw Chase like had a fiance, and that's not how things ended up playing out. But you don't know that as it's unfolding. So yeah, I think there's a lot more to be said about the film. I enjoyed it overall though. It was great to see, like, the theater was basically full when I went. I was, having not known anything about this, I was thoroughly surprised to walk into the auditorium. And this is a Thursday night opening, which usually aren't as full as say Friday or Saturdays. But unless it's like a Marvel movie when you got all the Marvel fans going as soon as possible. So I was genuinely surprised to see the theater basically full. I mean, it wasn't 100% full, but it was probably like 80 or 90% at capacity. And yeah, so it was interesting to be in like a theater full. Most of them, I think, were, I'd say the majority of the audience was female, but it was and older. I'd say probably 40 and above, and female is kind of where it skewed, which I'm not surprised given what the movie's about. But I do think it's a movie, like, I enjoyed it, so I think it's a movie for everybody. Other than, I mean, I think all adults would enjoy this film. And it's yeah, kind of wrapping things up. It's one that I recommend. I give this a letter grade of an A. I did really like it, and I think it's worth checking out. So it's not a big action film, so like that aspect of it doesn't drive it to be seen on the big screen. But I think the filmography and just capturing all the beautiful landscapes, that was really good to see on a big screen. So I recommend checking it out if you haven't already. I mean, if you haven't checked it out and you're here at this point, then I mean, you know, we've spoiled the whole movie. But yeah, hopefully you've had a chance to see this film yourself, and you know, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. What parts of the film did you like the most, or did it not really work as a film for you overall? For me, it did. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to smash that like button and subscribe so you don't miss any of my upcoming reviews. And with that, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video.